not complicated, I don't think we'll have immigration reform. The American people deserve an immigration system that looks like somebody designed it on purpose. And some laws do need to be changed, but that's not the main problem. The main problem at the border right now is that the Biden administration doesn't want to enforce America's immigration laws. And it's choosing not to stop the flow of illegal immigration. It's just that simple. If the president wants to stop it, all he's got to do is just re-implement the Return to Mexico problem, our program. Now, the border was secure. And what's happened in the last 6 weeks? People are flooding across the border. And the administration is responsible for that, but they also have the tools to stop it. Before we can have any meaningful discussion on immigration, there's got to be a commitment from the Biden administration that it understands that A, it has to enforce our laws, and B, that illegal immigration is illegal. Because that's the fundamental problem here. We don't have consensus on the most basic issue, and that is that illegal immigration is illegal. Some of my Democratic friends support open borders. They just do. You have to judge people up here by their actions, not their words. And they do. And until we can agree that illegal immigration is illegal, we won't reach a consensus. What's your other question?
On the 9/11 Commission, you told me last week you're supportive of a commission to examine...
I support a 9/11 Commission to get the facts. I don't support a 9/11 Commission to advance one party's politics at the expense of the other. And the commission that Speaker Pelosi talked about is stacked. And I mean, any fair-minded person knows that. And that's why I don't think it will happen, and if it does happen, it won't have any credibility. Yeah?
Have you been vaccinated yet?
I have.
You have, okay. At what point do you think that the Senate and the House should be able to get back into full, normal, pre-pandemic voting, meeting, and all that? Is it 100% of senators, 100% of House?
Well, here's what I think is going on. We've had many people in the country contract the coronavirus. We know that. They have antibodies, those who survived. We have probably, according to the epidemiologists, anywhere from 5 to 10 times as many people who contracted coronavirus and didn't even know it, or they had only mild symptoms. You add to that the number of people who are being vaccinated, and we're doing a pretty good job with our vaccination. We're not doing as good a job as Israel. And we're rapidly reaching the point, we're not there yet, but that the vast majority of the American people who either have the antibodies or have been vaccinated. And I think what you're seeing is a gradual opening up of the economy. I think that we ought to gradually open up on Capitol Hill as well. The shame to me of all of this is, and if I can see this, and you can see this, the American people can see this. But what to me is unconscionable is the fact that the Biden administration won't demand that we open the schools. We are doing irreparable damage to our kids, and some of them aren't going to catch up. Look, I couldn't name you the first 6 presidents of the United States in proper order, but I will never forget my first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade teacher. And we have kids who haven't been in school for a year because of politics. And that's unconscionable. And I think President Biden can do something about it if he's willing to. Okay, see you later, guys.
Gentle reminder.
push it. Perfect. No, you're good.
Don't drop the flag.
Push it back there. No, the flag, just the flag.
Towards you.
Perfect.
There you go.
Yeah, actually, I can get out of there. You don't need so much to get out of there. They come out the middle of the doors.
So small. It's fascinating. So that's a fantastic value. Small shop. The G's are big. This is 21.8. It's huge. I don't know what happened. I figured out why they didn't like it. Maybe that could be it. I think it's the same with the new ones. Yeah, we have the computer property that line up like waiting to come out. Some hallways in this building are so dark, it's not sure what's happening.
I didn't know what it was when I texted. I saw it also. Well, the QA on this thing.
Oh, that's right. That's the cute thing. Never seen that.
Actually, this is more about the dietary than it's pedophile.
Is there anything what's supposedly better about those?
I mean, they're very comfortable.
That's a point. That's good. Just like you were saying. I really thought it said DC at first.
I know, right?
No, I mean, the deal is attempt to shoot both.
What? Attempt to put on a cruise.
Just be mindful of other people. Okay? And then do you guys have a plan when they're coming out here? Do you have a plan of where you're going? Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. The discussion continues on the other side about blowing up the Senate by eliminating the legislative filibuster. As some of you may have noticed, I laid out this morning that in a 50-50 Senate, that's not quite the panacea for the left that they think it is. If you take away the 60-vote threshold, you still have a 50-50 Senate. And the minority, given the way the Senate operates, is not toothless. For example, it takes 51 members to have a quorum, and the vice president doesn't count. The Senate, for those of you who observe it every day, which is most of you, basically operates on unanimous consent. Only one senator is required to deny unanimous consent. Why would those kinds of reprisals, if you will, be under consideration? Simply because fracturing the legislative filibuster changes the Senate institutionally forever. This is no small matter. I, as you recall, said no to President Trump on numerous occasions to his suggestion that the Republican majority in the Senate do the same thing. He tweeted against me. I stood up for the institution. At least so far, it doesn't appear the Democratic majority leader is going to stand up for the institution. They continue to wave this threat over the minority, and our anticipation is that this is designed to ratchet up the pressure on Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema, who've made it clear that they think the way the Senate functions should not be changed. And so we admire their courage. I expect it will be tested over the course of this two-year period. In the meantime, I would advise the majority to look for things on a bipartisan basis that we might do working together. A good example of that was the way we did 5 COVID bills last Congress in a time of divided government with a Republican majority.
As the leader points out, that it seems like the Democrats have chosen, instead of working on bipartisan bills, to try and find as many partisan things as they can do. They continue to report bills from the House over to the Senate that they know don't have bipartisan support, whether that's elections, or whether that's guns and all the issues surrounding that, or whether it's the issue of immigration, which I think too is coming to the forefront now. And on that point, I would simply say that the president, when he first got to office on the first day, immediately revoked the emergency declaration with respect to the border. And since that time, things have deteriorated quickly. They've relaxed enforcement. They have quit building the border wall. They have, quit deportations. There are so many areas where, when it comes to the border, this current administration is making much worse what's going on down there. And as a consequence, you're seeing all kinds of unaccompanied minors, asylum seekers, people at the border. It's a very, I think, unsafe and chaotic situation down there that will only get worse if they continue down the current path. It strikes me, at least, that the policies that were in place before, when the previous administration was in office, kept stability at the border. There was order, there was discipline, and if that isn't restored very quickly, this thing is going to continue to unravel. And evidence of that is that the administration, as I mentioned, when they came in, they rescinded the emergency declaration, and yet now they are sending FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, to the border, which suggests they also recognize that this is an emergency. I hope that on the leader's point, there are enough Democrats who recognize the value of what the Senate contributes, the importance of giving the minorities a voice in the process, of the minority party, I should say, and of giving, making sure that there is at least some attempt to cooperate and find common ground and bipartisanship. That is the essence of the Senate. That's the way the Senate was designed. That's the way it's worked throughout history. And blowing up the legislative filibuster in order to accomplish some short-term agenda will only backfire and create a lot of long-term pain for the country and for the party that does it. It is a mutually assured destruction in terms of the path, and I hope the Democrats will think better of it.
The tax and spend Democrats are back. President Biden has just signed into law a $1.9 trillion spending bill, and now the White House and President Biden are talking about raising taxes. This would be the most significant tax-raising piece of legislation in the last 28 years. Now, at home in Wyoming, I don't talk to anybody that says, hey, I hope they raise my taxes. Republicans, conservatives, people are not for raising taxes, and the Biden administration is talking about doing it many ways, raising the tax rates on income tax, raising the taxes on long-term investment income, resuscitating the death tax, and then, oh, they want to spend more money in the IRS to hire more IRS agents to look into you and your taxes and your business dealings. Well, they say they want to raise all of this money under the guise of infrastructure. But infrastructure, the way that the Democrats are using the phrase, is just code for their climate agenda. Like, I chaired the committee last time in the Senate, the Environment and Public Works Committee. We did real infrastructure, roads, bridges, highways, ports, dams, things that contribute to the economy and to communities and for good jobs. That, to me, is infrastructure, not what the Democrats are talking about now. Now, I thought we could work together in a bipartisan way, but there was a hot mic moment yesterday with the Secretary of Transportation and one of the Senate Democrats, which made you really think, are they really wanting to work with us? But it sure sounds like they don't. You know, they're talking about the climate agenda with rules and regulations and mandates, making it harder for businesses to work and for people to get hired and economies to get stronger. So it's about raising taxes for them, and it's not about infrastructure as I know it, but it's no surprise. Republicans are not going to partner with Democrats on the Green New Deal or on raising taxes to pay for it.
So this week, Democrats filed S1 in the Senate. Much like H.R. 1, it's a partisan effort, frankly, to take over the elections in a way that sort of drives off a partisan cliff. It takes the Federal Elections Commission, which has always been evenly divided, and turns it into a 3-2 commission with the third vote on one side being determined by whoever's elected president. It requires ballot harvesting in every state. Taxpayer dollars to candidates for Congress. If you can raise $1 from a small contributor, you can get $6 from taxpayers to match that dollar. So if you get $100,000 raised somehow, suddenly you've got $700,000, almost all of which is money that would have gone to other taxpayer purposes rather than to politics. And in addition to that, it sets one standard for congressional redistricting for the whole country, and one umpire, one ultimate referee for that one standard becomes the D.C. Circuit Court. It is everything Democrats have tried to do for 20 years, and in some ways, things that Democrats never even thought about mentioning before, like a partisan federal election commission.
Folks, let's make no bones about it. There is a crisis at the border. This is not just a big problem. This is a crisis at the border. And a number of my Senate Democrat colleagues acknowledged that in the Senate Armed Services Committee this morning, that we have a crisis at the border. The number of unaccompanied minors has tripled at the border over the past 2 weeks. And not only is it a heartbreaking humanitarian issue, but after wearing the uniform of our nation for over 23 years, I see this as a national security issue. Now, a lot of folks will just think it is people from Latin America that are coming across our border, folks from Mexico coming across our border. But folks, that's not just it. We have China engaging heavily in our southern hemisphere. China, Russia, Iran, all investing in the Southcom area. And we heard the Southcom commander, Admiral Fowler, speak to that this morning, that we have transnational criminal organizations that are exploiting our situation at the border, engaging in nefarious activities, whether it is Chinese money laundering, whether it is human trafficking, you name it, exploiting our open border. So folks, it is time to get over the partisan bickering about whether this is a crisis or not, acknowledge that we have an issue, and make sure we are pushing back and securing our border. We cannot allow transnational criminal organizations, as well as our adversaries, to exploit these conditions any longer.
I came up here 2 years ago after being governor of Florida for 8 years. In 8 years, we cut taxes almost 100 times. We paid off 1/3 of our state debt. We had record funding for education, for the environment, things like that. And we added 1.7 million jobs. Raising taxes is not going to help anybody in our country. If you look at what the Biden administration is doing now, whether gas prices are up, inflation is up, and the latest is going to raise taxes on people across this country, whether it's income tax, death tax, gas tax. You saw the Transportation Secretary say he's open to raising the gas tax or taxing electric vehicles. None of that's going to help families. But what's going to do is hurt all the families that are on fixed income, the lower income families, when you see gas prices up, taxes up, and inflation up. So like all of us, we're going to all fight to make sure we can take care of every family, especially the families on fixed income and low income families in this country.
Leader McConnell.
Yeah.
So we know you're opposed to eliminating the filibuster. Is there any opening to filibuster reform, like enforcing the talking filibuster, the requirement that a senator has to be on the floor?
It's not broken, and it doesn't need to be fixed. Our Democratic friends used the filibuster frequently in the last Congress. They were in the minority in the Senate. They took advantage of, for example, killing Senator Tim Scott's police reform bill. I didn't react to that by saying, okay, we'll change the rules of the Senate to get our way. It's not broken, and it doesn't need to be fixed. This is a solution in search of a problem. It is not a problem that the Senate stops bad ideas or negotiates bipartisan solutions. That is the essence of the Senate.
The number of cloture votes has increased.
Leader McConnell, Javier Becerra is going to be confirmed very soon, possibly this week. Pro-life organizations are very concerned about that. Health and Human Services Secretary. Can you talk to us a little bit about that and your feelings?
Well, I'm not planning on voting for the nominee. I think he's uniquely unqualified for that particular position from a variety of different points of view. And I think his success is likely to be quite narrow.
Leader McConnell, what do you think about what Bernie Sanders said today was his intention to do infrastructure through reconciliation? Your thoughts on that, especially after the hot mic moment with Senator Cardin yesterday, and then how would all this get paid for?
Well, Senator Barrasso was talking about that. I think the Trojan horse will be called infrastructure, but inside the Trojan horse will be all the tax increases that Senator Scott and others have been talking about. They want to raise taxes across the board. And the only way I think they could pull that off would be through a reconciliation process. They have one more of those available to them, and my suspicion is they will try to jam everything they can into that bill and call it an infrastructure bill, just like they tried to call the bill a couple of weeks ago a COVID bill, which had 1% for vaccines and 9% for health care and a whole lot of other things. So, yeah, I fully expect that's what they'll try to do. And that's because I don't think there's going to be any enthusiasm on our side for a tax increase.
Leader McConnell, would you support the Violence Against Women Act bill that the House is expected to pass on Wednesday?
Well, Senator Ernst, is she still here? Has been our leader on that issue, and if she were still here, I'd get her to answer your question. Thanks a lot.